What nutrients are important for the adrenals? Well, obviously, magnesium is, selenium is, ACE. I mean, I've given you that list. You can utilize those. And I think I've got some other slides here shortly that'll go over it. The adrenal cortex as well. What else can affect your adrenals other than stress? Mercury stores in your adrenal cortex. It alters adenyl cyclase. So I can't generate norepinephrine and epinephrine. I do a lot of neurotransmitter work in our office. And so I see a lot of people coming in with no norepinephrine and epinephrine. They're burned out their ability to have any excitatory chemicals in their body. And except they're spilling a lot of serotonin because their body's not using it in their urine. So they're spilling the serotonin because it's not binding to their receptor sites in their brain. And they're also making some other little excitatory compounds that don't help. Lead, mercury, cadmium, we kind of talked about environmental load. We don't need that. Let's get through a little bit of this. Substances that inhibit phase 2 detoxification. I know you saw the Wall Street Journal article on the use of agents for regulating hydrochloric acid production. It was on Monday. I mean, it absolutely a phenomenal article on the H1 blockade drugs and their metabolic impact, like they're increasing the incidence of gastric cancers and why that's happening, because it's causing a destruction of the natural flora in the gut, an increase in H. pylori, decreased protein utilization in the body. This is Wall Street Journal, man. I mean, right there. Big deal. How many people do you think take that? Between drugs that are prescribed and then over-the-counter drugs. Because, everybody's got to have one more chili dog and then they can pop something to fix it. Right? Yeah, I'll eat that pizza and take one. I mean, what's the matter? Problem is it does matter. So, NSAIDs alter detoxification processes in your body and inhibit detoxification. Low-protein diet. Not having enough protein. Nutrient deficiencies, which are rampant. I mean, people are nutrient deficient before they ever take a drug. Then they start taking drugs like birth control pills, which are now given to our 9-year-olds because they're starting their periods at age 8, and we don't want them pregnant at age 9. So we have them on oral contraceptives that deplete folic acid, B12, B6, B3, B1, magnesium, selenium, zinc, tyrosine. I think that's it. Start them at age 9 on that, right? Let's get them going. And by the way, while their phase 2 levels in detoxification is altered because of their poor nutrient status, so that we can fire off a bunch of 4-hydroxymethoxyestrones and 16-hydroxymethoxyestrones, right? We can make all those bad estrogens because our phase 2 metabolism's altered. All this PCOS is going on and fibroids in 13-year-olds. Wonder why, right? Oh, we can go by that one. I mean, the thing about chemical pollutants is pretty amazing when you think about it. We have 85,000 chemicals in our environment, and we only track the top 1,000. And we really don't even know what happens when we put 3 of them together in our body. So it's important that we understand we need to help docs and help healthcare professionals learn how to get people's detoxification processes in order. Very critical step. Over 250,000 children aged 1 through 5 years consume a combination of 20 pesticides daily. 610,000 children consume unsafe levels of organophosphates daily. And then some apples can deliver unsafe levels of organophosphates to children in one bite. Gee, I wonder why we're having all these cancers in our kids and why we're having all these metabolic disruption in our children, right? It's another issue. Not the only one, but it's another issue. I just lectured at the International Oral Medical Toxicology Academy annual meeting, and I kind of went through heavy metals at length. I would just invite you, please, look at all the research that the EPA is putting out in regards to the amount of environmental load for heavy metals that all of us are facing. It's significant. And these metals, like lead, just got put on the cancer-causing list. All right? Mercury, arsenic. In fact, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I believe their website, you can go up and you can put your diet in. You can see, I don't know if you can put your diet in and factor it there, but what you can see is the amount of toxic chemicals and metals per gram of food eaten. So if I eat fish, I'm going to get so much arsenic or so much mercury. If I have, I'm going to juice carrots, they're not organic. Hey, what's it going to be? I mean, that's where it's gotten, that we can calculate environmental load based on our diet. It's significant. So what do you need for detoxification? I probably just want to highlight a couple of these that are really important. I think that, indole-3-carbinol, diindole-methane, really important. I mean, I think that both of those, incredibly important that we burn off these estrogens, not just in women, but in men. Men are getting really good at having flipped estrogen and testosterone ratios. Of course, we want to check them, like we check them, but it is happening more and more because we're getting hit with so many environmental estrogens. I mean, how many of you reuse your plastic bottles? How many of you fill these up more than once? Anybody? You fill them up more than once? Hands up, be proud, come on. These bottles were only made to be filled one time. When you fill them more than once, you leach phthalates into the water and you are getting xenoestrogen exposure. Proven. You're not supposed to redo these. If you're going to do that, get Lexan. Lexan is impervious. It does not leach. These are just facts. We wonder, where are we getting all this stuff? It starts here. SAMe. Why is SAMe so important? If you want to do something to really influence serotonin and quicken somebody, get them on some SAMe, right? I mean, I think the Harvard newsletter, Public Health newsletter, came out and said, after 35 years of review, this is probably a medicine that should not be called alternative, but it should be mainstream therapy. Why? Because it works on most people for depression, and it has fewer side effects, and it actually enhances the effect. There's an ongoing trial right now to see, but they really do think it enhances the effect of antidepressants. Less dose, better effectiveness. Now, what's interesting about SAMe is it helps to rejuvenate dopamine receptor beds as well as serotonin receptor beds. And if you happen to be, here's where genetics comes into place. If you're an alcoholic, you have a D2-allele-1 deficiency in your dopamine receptors, that means you have a reward deficiency issue in your genome where I have to have something to eat. No, I don't have to have something to eat. I have to have something to drink. No, I don't need to do that. I need to gamble. And I don't have to gamble. I got to shop. No, I don't really want to shop. I got to have alcohol. I got to smoke a cigarette. What you're doing is the reward deficiency cascade under duress. Once that shift occurs and your dopamine receptors are challenged and they're not up to the challenge, you will crave, and you will have an unrequited craving. Until you recondition those dopamine receptors, you are not going to get it. Okay. Honest to God, guys, it's only been 5 espressos today. So SAMe is really important because of that. I'm a little bit aggressive with SAMe. I use 1,600 milligrams a day at first on people, unless they have an autoimmune disorder. Because I don't want to pop their serotonin real hard in that situation. 1,600 milligrams a day, and then I slide their dose back over a period of 6 weeks, and I try to find a maintenance dose of about probably 800 milligrams. But if you read the clinical literature, it's usually between 1,200 and 1,600 milligrams a day in order to get somebody to say, ha, I'm not depressed. You know what's great about it? Sometimes it works in under 2 days. 2 days later, people are going, wow, man, I don't feel depressed anymore. Can this be real? Yes, it can. It's great. I mean, and the clinical trials are behind it. They're there. What else is important here? I'll always go back to milk thistle. Milk thistle helps to regenerate the hepatocytes so that you get recovery and rehabilitation of your cells within the liver. It improves phase 2 detoxification, incredibly important. Dosing, really anywhere from 175 to 600 milligrams a day, depending on how far off the person's liver is, right? If they've got a non-alcoholic fatty liver or a cirrhotic liver, they need 600 milligrams a day. If you're just trying to influence their insulin resistance, because milk thistle actually works on insulin resistance as well as fatty liver, it's pretty interesting because then you can use that in those non-alcoholic insulin-resistant diabetics as a key nutrient in their regimen. At about 350 to 500 milligrams a day is fine. Another one that's, of course, important, N-acetylcysteine, and, of course, alpha-lipoic acid. I mean, I'm just a huge fan of alpha-lipoic acid. Why? It enhances GLUT transport binding. So GLUT4 transport proteins that are within your cell membrane are floating around, and it gets them active, so you can actually start getting glucose transported across your cell when you've got adequate alpha-lipoic acid. If those GLUT4 transport proteins stay stagnant, they're just kind of standing there going, no, don't give me anything. I don't want it. I just don't want it. Don't give me any of that glucose. Alpha-lipoic acid opens up their arms. Okay, I'll take the glucose. I'll take the load. I'll carry it into the cell. I'll help it burn. What else does alpha-lipoic acid do? Peroxyl nitrite free radicals and oxygen free radicals, right? So you get singlet oxygen free radical quenching and peroxyl nitrite free radical quenching, especially when lipoic acid gets broken down to dihydrolipoic acid. Okay? So alpha-lipoic acid is a superstar.